Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
If you're watching us live, thanks for being patient. We had some technical difficulties, which seem to be happening a little bit more these days.
They do indeed.
Yeah.
You sounded a little Irish when you said, happens a little more these days.
I looked over at your green scarf and I thought, anytime I want to do an Irish accent, I always have to think, me Lucky Charms first.
Yes.
That's what gets me into my Irish accent. Oh, me Lucky Charms.
They have like a special version of Lucky Charms for St. Patrick's Day, and it's almost like all green marshmallows.
Ooh.
So the milk turns all green.
Ooh.
There's a lot of green dye. Probably all of the green dye in the world, the majority is consumed right around now.
Yeah, in Chicago, they dyed the whole river green.
Yes. Yes. I bet you if our fountain could operate in the winter, it would be green. The Three Rivers.
Oh, I thought you meant our church fountain. I was thinking, where's our church fountain?
Come thou fountain, have your blessing.
Yeah, we should have a fountain.
We should have a fountain. We should have a water feature.
We should have a water feature in the garden.
One more thing for us to have to maintain.
Yeah.
You know, that's an important thing.
It might be green, but not because we dyed it.
It could be, algae in there and moss.
A lot of water features have to have some green in it.
Yes.
Well, we should get started.
We
We're
should.
running
We're
a little
late.
late today. So we'll start with our 3 chimes. When you cannot hear that 3rd chime anymore, you can put a hand in the air. Here's the first one, numero uno.
Oh, multilingual today.
Oh, see?
Irish, Spanish.
There it goes. And let's do our call to worship. Drop it on the screen. There's a great video online of you ever hear the piano guys?
Yes.
They're really funny.
Yeah.
What does the middle pedal do? And he goes and he pushes down the middle pedal and the seat pops up and he ejects, he flies into the air, kicks him out of the seat.
That'd be great.
That's not what the middle pedal does.
No, but is that the one that squeaks for us?
No.
One of them squeaks.
I was hearing it.
Well, now it's not going to do it.
Of course
We
not.
asked it to. Yeah. Just,
It's the way it goes.
is the way it goes. So the gospel today is from the New Testament book of Luke, and we have the Hebrew scripture. There's little things going on today.
Did you snooze it?
I don't know. An alarm went off on the organ, and I don't know. I'm going to blame the time change on all this weirdness. See, what do you do? I must have snoozed it.
Yeah, snooze will be on the top.
Yeah. Or we could just hit the battery
We
out.
hit the minus button.
Okay, see what that does.
It's one of those satellite clocks.
So today there's a Hebrew scripture reading, and there's a psalm, and there's a gospel, but the psalm is the psalter, which means they're singing.
Yes.
So the chancel choir will sing Psalm 27, which is the psalm for the lectionary today. So we're getting two old scriptures. So we're getting Hebrew scriptures from, actually our Hebrew scriptures is Psalm 2.
Yeah.
And then they're singing the psalm. And then we have the gospel of Luke. So we could do that.
Let's do the Books of the Bible song. We'll listen for Psalms.
And Moses is
That was
watching
loud,
Mr. D today.
Yeah, I
Particular
can
reason.
Moses is watching me. I'm not sure why.
No. Well,
He's kind of looking up at the sky, though, too.
really?
Yeah, he's looking up.
Looking up. So he's not staring at you. Maybe
He's rolling his eyes at you. Call yourself a
Like,
piano player?
I gave you all this scripture, all these laws and everything this is do with it.
We sing this song.
Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges,
Moses wrote, singing Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Psalm and Song, and the prophets are these Isaiah, Jeremiah, and James, and Ezekiel, the baby with the eyes, and Hosea, Joel, and Amos, and Obadiah, Jonah, and the valley of the Whale, Micah, Nahum, Amos, Zephaniah, Haggai, and Zechariah, the rest Old Testament, reveals and Malachi, points to these are the holy books, daily to this is the holy word. Tell our message to all that heard. Mark, Luke, and John, the stories of Jesus and then move on to Acts and the letters of Paul. Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Paul, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, move on to 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st Timothy, 2nd Timothy, Titus, Mark, Peter, and James, books from Peter and John, Paul, Revelation, see how things are written down. I believe that Jesus is the Christ and His grace was seen. These are the holy books, telling the ways to take a second look. This is the holy word. Tell us message to all that heard. I realized I had the candle at the beginning.
Right during the song, that worked.
Right, the song, yeah, worked because, yeah, it's kind of the light of Jesus right there in that candle. And I was counting the prophets, there were 12.
I saw you counting.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever really counted that, but if, we count Malachi, because Malachi was one of the prophets, even though he pointed to a brand new deal, so there were 12 prophets.
Wow.
So that was a lot. And did Moses approve?
Just rolling his eyes
Rolling
at me.
his eyes, like, oh my
Rolling
gosh.
his eyes.
This is what you do with the gospel and the scriptures. So,
Let my people go.
is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Let more people go, please, spare them. So, today in worship, Pastor Austin is preaching, and the title of her sermon is Until the Time Comes. And that's a line that's in scripture today. But it's kind of interesting, the reading in scripture today, listen to, Jesus is Jesus is outside of Jerusalem, the promised land that God had promised to God's people. And Jesus knows he's going to go into Jerusalem, and he knows that this is like leading up to his death. That's kind of what we think about during Lent, is preparing our hearts and minds for the time that Jesus goes through trials and tribulations and terrible torture. But then at the end of Lent is Easter, and we hear the resurrection story and know that even death can't hold back Jesus' love for us. But Jesus is getting ready to do this, and the Pharisees, who were like religious leaders, said to him, look, you don't want to go into Jerusalem because King Herod, is out to kill you. So it would be really smart if you didn't go into Jerusalem. Well, Jesus kind of knew he was going to go in there anyway, because that was the plan all along. But he's really upset because the people, God's people in Jerusalem, have kind of forgotten God's laws. Moses would have been really upset about that. They're not following God's ways, and they're kind of a lost people. And Jesus says this, and this is in Luke 13. He says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often I have desired to gather your children as a hen gathers her brood under her wings. And so Jesus is saying, God sends all these wonderful prophets to tell you God's messages. And you don't listen to God's messages, and you even kill them or you stone them, meaning they hit them with stones. I mean, how awful would that be? And Jesus is incredibly sad and says, I wish I could bring you under my wings like a hen brings her brood, which is kind of like her children, right? And Jesus would love to just protect them. We have on our front porch right now a fern hanging outside. It's from last year, so it's not living anymore. But in it is a mourning dove on her eggs. And we're very careful when we open and close the front door. But we leave the fern there because we know that she comes back to it. And even in the snow yesterday, I looked out and the wind is blowing and that dove is on those eggs and she had snow on her back. That's how much she was protecting her babies.
That's a mother's love.
That's a mother's love. So we thought, do you have a picture of your chicken?
I'm nervous to bring it up because that's what caused this whole situation last time, but we can try it. Okay. I do have a picture. Okay. Looks like it might be working. Okay. Let me see if I can stop the screen. Share. I'm down here, by the way. Hey! Hi! Let me see. It's thinking about it.
Well, that's more than it was before.
It's like, okay. I think I want to show this. It's loading.
It's loading.
It's verifying. It's going to work, Miss Ellen.
It is. I know it is.
It is. Mm-hmm. We have the spinning wheel. Proud Mary, keep on rolling. I don't know why I thought of that one. That's
oh my gosh. You've had the southern accent today. You've been Irish.
Yeah. Anytime I talk about our chickens, I have to talk in a little bit of a southern accent. I don't know why.
Maybe because of Kentucky Fried Chicken?
Oh, no.
I know it's terrible, but that's
here we go. This is Samin. This is a picture of our chicken. Well, we don't have these chickens anymore, but this is Samin. And if you look closely behind Samin, you might see Mr. D's Weimaraner. That's our, whoa. I zoomed in.
Beautiful feathers.
Oh, yeah, she's gorgeous. But Samin was our good hen.
You had a good hen. How many hens?
You can see the delay here. We had 2 hens.
2?
And
our neighbor right now has 9.
There we go.
That we get to help take care of.
9. That's like 8 too many.
Well, he had 19. Oh. And he's given them to other people, realizing that 19 was just too many for an acre of property. And the hawks were coming to have them, to dine on them.
We had 2. We had Samin. This is Samin on the screen. Mm-hmm. And then we had Lizzo as well.
Lizzo.
I don't have a picture of Lizzo, but Lizzo.
It's a little portly.
Lizzo thought she had hens, so she thought she had chicks.
Yes.
And would sit on her eggs and not produce any more eggs. So
she was a brooder.
She was broody.
Mm-hmm. She was a brooder.
Yep. She was trying to protect those eggs that were not going to hatch.
Yeah. But I think that visual of Jesus wanting to protect those people, that was a good illustration for him to use, because the people that he was talking to were farmers. Mm-hmm. They would have had chickens. They would have had other types of farm animals. But birds especially are more likely to hide or cover their young. Cows don't do that. Goats don't do that. Sheep don't do that. So when Jesus said, oh, I wish I could have covered you, I wish I could just reach and cover you like a mother hen protects her children, Jesus was saying, wow, you guys are making all kinds of mistakes here, and I really want to protect you, but that's just not going to happen. You don't want to hear about it. You know, imagine if the mother hen was trying to protect the babies, the chicks, and they just kept taking off. Mm-hmm. And dangerous things could happen to them because they're small, they can't fly. So I think that was a really good illustration for Jesus to just say he wanted to protect them. And it broke his heart that he couldn't. Yeah. You know, I mean, imagine seeing God's people just continuing to make the same mistakes that they made since Adam and Eve made mistakes, right? And even Moses gave them the 10 best ways to live rules, and they didn't follow those. And I think Jesus knew that there wasn't anything he could do at this point. And it wasn't until after Jesus died that people said, oh, maybe we should have listened to him.
Yeah.
And then even some of the Pharisees who were kind of anti-Jesus because they were afraid that Jesus was trying to teach in new ways that they didn't trust or believe, even after Jesus died, some of those same Pharisees became Christians.
Mm.
And they started coming to like the Christian church as Christ followers.
Mm.
So he had a huge impact, but it really wasn't until after he died that impact.
And Jesus called King Herod the fox, right?
Yes,
In the
that's
situation.
right. Yes, he did. You fox.
Fox trying to get the hens.
Yeah. Yeah, and you hear like a sly fox because they think that they're tricky. And that was kind of Herod trying to trick Jesus.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
So, and Herod was always trying to trip Jesus up. But that's the same Herod who wasn't totally behind Jesus dying. You know, he's like, I don't know that I want to be the one to kill off the popular teacher. And if he really is God's son,
What if?
What if?
Yeah.
And so Herod had reservations, but was still so afraid.
Mm-hmm.
So afraid of losing power. And usually that's how these things happen. It's a person who's afraid of losing power.
Yeah.
It gets really, really nasty. So do we have a song?
Even in modern times.
Yes, even in modern times.
You know, I don't have any songs about foxes and hens. I do, but there's...
Well, I have like little chicks stories that kids could read later. 5 Little Ducks. That's almost like 5 little ducks went out one day, and then Mama Duck, she called all of them back. She wasn't happy when one came back, or 2 or 3 or 4 wanted all 5. That's kind of like Jesus, you know, it'd be okay if 3 of followers came. Jesus wants everybody. Okay, sorry.
But I do have one of our favorites. I feel like last year during Lent, the hymns were kind of a lot. So we did some Sunday school favorites to bring a little bit of joy into Lent, even though, you know, we remember a lot of the sad times and the tough times in Jesus' history, but
there's heavy ones today in the hymns.
Yeah. So let's bring a little bit of
yeah, but now I'm gonna have to do exercise.
Yes, you are gonna have to work very hard because unfortunately my fingers are playing the piano.
I was learning how to play the piano.
All right, so this is Deep and Wide. If you've never done this with us before, this is a favorite here at SPC, and we'll just sing all the words first, and then I'll tell you what we'll do after that. Here we go. Deep and wide, there's a fountain flowing deep and wide. Deep and wide, there's a fountain flowing deep and wide. And if you're watching this on there on the left side of your screen, she's doing some motions. We have the deep motion, which looks like this. We have the wide motion, which looks like this. Why don't I make us bigger so they can see this? I'm covered up.
Where are you, Mr.
We have the deep.
There we are. Deep.
We have wide. We have a fountain flowing, or this way, deep and wide. So those are really the 3 things: deep, wide, fountain, flowing. So every time we get to one of those words, you can do that. Let's do that again. I'll make these words big. Bang, bang. There we go. Deep and wide, there's a fountain flowing deep and wide. You got it. Deep and wide, there's a fountain flowing deep and wide. Well, now we're going to take out some words. So now instead of singing the word deep, you're just going to think it like this. And wide, there's a fountain flowing, and wide, there's a fountain flowing, and wide. Got the idea? All right, let's take out 2 words.
Okay.
Let's take out deep, no deep, and no wide.
So
I'm
say
going to
the
think
and.
those. Still say the
Okay.
and, but no deep and no wide. Here we go. And fountain flowing, there's a fountain flowing.
I have to hum a little, so I kind of fill in the blanks.
Okay, helps your brain out.
It does.
All right, no deep, no wide, and no fountain. Here we go. There's a Yes, just all those other little ones. Here we go. And there's a no words at all. All the words faster. Deep and wide, there's a mountain flowing deep and wide. Faster. Deep and wide, there's a mountain flowing deep and wide. Deep and wide, there's a mountain flowing deep and wide. Deep and wide, there's a mountain flowing deep and wide. Oh,
No, I was gonna-
just keep going
I
up.
was just gonna have to go find a helium balloon somewhere because I was just not gonna be able.
Have you seen that video of the voice choir? And there's one soprano boy
No.
singing.
No.
Oh, and then he has his hands behind his back and he's singing, and then the song gets really high.
Yeah.
So he takes the balloon,
No.
sucks helium, and then his voice goes way.
Wow. I'll have to look for that one.
Oh, if I see it again, it's hilarious. And he's so serious the whole time.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, so you have no idea this is coming.
I can't tell if it's real or not. I really can't. But it's hilarious.
That's awesome. That was awesome. So we have to remember that this is a time of Lent,
Not
not
Lent.
Lent, and that it's a longer time. And I think after the time change last night, we realized the days are getting longer.
They are getting longer.
Because it's going to be lighter, longer, and that's just going to keep happening all the way up till June 21st. The days just keep getting longer and longer and longer and
Oh,
longer.
I love June 21st. It's a great day. The longest day of the
The
year.
longest day. And there's so much, usually there's sunshine.
Yes.
Yeah, and like at 9 o'clock at night, it's still light
Yeah,
out.
it's
Love it.
wild.
But so the lengthening of the days is like Lent. It comes from the same word, and we Latin. And we just think about the days getting longer. But Lent is also that time that we think about getting ready for Jesus to go through some terrible stuff.
Mm.
And so, and our purple is our color for Lent. So if any of our friends are watching the worship service online, or if you come in person, you'll have to look and see what things are purple. One of the things that Mr. Wagner does is he makes sure that like the banner at the bottom of our bulletin, the color reflects the season. So that's the season of Lent, it's purple. And there's some other purple things that you'll see. We have purple paramint, we have some
It
other.
could be fun to find that picture on the front of the bulletin in our sanctuary. Because that picture is in our sanctuary.
Or maybe near the sanctuary.
Near the sanctuary, right. Looks almost like a stained glass window,
It
doesn't it?
does, and it says the photograph was taken by Ellen Alston.
Oh, I know her.
Do you know
What a
her?
great photo.
Just like Elf knows Santa.
Mhm.
I know him. But this is a tricky one to find.
Yeah.
It has not been on the worship bingo card for a specific reason, because it might not be easy to see from a seat inside the sanctuary.
Right.
So, but it's one of these days, worship bingo cards, I'm going to do it for things that are outside the sanctuary. So kids actually have to get here early enough to look at things in the narthex, take a little tour to find those other things, because there's so much symbolism. This is a crown of thorns, and it's around red. So we think of like Jesus's head and the crown of thorns. And it has some thistle further out from it, and that's kind of the Scottish symbol for Presbyterian, like Presbyterian church is based from Scotland. So the symbol of Scotland is a thistle. Pretty good. So there's lots of cool stuff to see in that narthex if you ever spend time like looking up above. You ever seen all the wood carvings? That's where the thistles are.
It's beautiful.
They're up in there.
Yeah.
So that might be on a worship bingo card at some point. And we probably have some birthdays.
Oh, we do.
I think Ruby,
For-
do we have Ruby on there? Because Ruby's birthday was Thursday.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
And I don't know that she is on our list.
She is not on our list, so we'll make sure we mention her right
Yeah.
now. So happy birthday to Thomas F,
Ruby,
Anna S, and
Ruby.
our Ruby.
And it's Pastor Todd Leach's birthday today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Happy birthday,
Yeah.
Pastor Todd, if you're watching.
We got more snow than they did yesterday. Nope.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. That was nice. I should do that every time.
And I guess, Mr. D, in like 2 weeks, you're not going to be here.
I am
right?
not going to be here.
You're going to be coming back from a trip.
Yes.
So we're not sure what we're going to do that Sunday yet. Next Sunday will be normal.
Oh, yeah, I'll be here next week.
Normal.
We'll figure out a
We'll
plan.
figure it out.
After.
Pre-recorded or just kind of something. We'll figure something out for that Sunday.
Should we finish with our Jesus love?
We should. I think that'd be great. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong, they are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Mr. D, when we say they are weak, but he is strong, meaning like we as Jesus' children, like the little chickens in the nest are weak, but Jesus is strong. I don't think we're meaning strong like could be
Muscles,
powerful
yeah.
and lift heavy things.
Right.
I think sometimes we need to remember that our faith may not always be strong. We may doubt, we may make mistakes, we may break some of the laws that Moses gave from God, but that through all of those things, that Jesus is stronger than we are. So when we start to feel that sense of weakness, or when we really feel like we need some strength to help us, we just need to look to Jesus. And that's kind of like that mother hen feeling too, is that when you are afraid, when you just can't cope, when things just seem overwhelming, Jesus wants to be like those wings that cover you and keep the snow off you, or keep the scary things away and to protect you. And we need to remember that. It's not that we're weak by needing Jesus' help. Jesus is really strong and wants to be our help. And I think that's just an important thing we all need to remember. So we will change the light and you may ring us out.
Oh, yes.
Yes, ring us out. Oh, there it goes.
All right, friends, we will see you next week.
Next week.
Hopefully without technical difficulties.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Be a chicken.
Be a chicken.
Be a chicken.